Every year, millions of people click into a safety harness expecting nothing but adrenaline and speed. The slow climb, the first drop, the rush of wind against your face. Most get exactly that. But sometimes, rarely but devastatingly, something goes catastrophically wrong. "15 roller coaster accidents that exposed mechanical failures, operator errors, and design flaws that should never have existed." These are not Hollywood disasters. These are real rides, real people, and real tragedies. After watching this, you will understand why every single click of that safety bar matters more than you ever imagined. The world's tallest wooden roller coaster, a cracked support beam, and 27 people who described hitting a brick wall at 78 miles per hour. Story 1. Son of Beast. July 9th, 2006, Kings Island, Ohio. At 4:45 in the afternoon, screams erupted from the Son of Beast, the world's tallest and fastest wooden roller coaster, standing 218 feet tall and racing at 78 miles per hour. 27 people were rushed to hospital after a cracked support beam created what investigators called a pothole effect beneath the train. One victim described it as hitting a brick wall at full speed. The investigation revealed management had been applying Band-Aid fixes to fundamental structural failures for years, rather than addressing the ride as a whole. An inspector testified that the wooden support beams were cracked and splintered in places, and that excessive lateral motion had been wearing down timber connections and loosening bolt holes throughout the structure. After further injuries in 2009, when a rider was diagnosed with a broken blood vessel in her head, the park's own general manager admitted he was not comfortable with the ride. The Son of Beast never ran again and was demolished in 2012, $20 million in construction reduced to rubble. A 14-year-old boy visiting Orlando for a football program. A safety sensor that had been manually tampered with, and a 300-foot fall that nobody stopped. Story 2. Orlando Freefall. March 24, 2022, Icon Park, Orlando, Florida. 14-year-old Tyre Sampson from Missouri had already been turned away from 2 rides at the park because of his size. At 6'5" and 340 pounds, he was determined to experience at least one attraction. Operators allowed him to board the Orlando Freefall, the world's tallest freestanding drop tower at 430 feet. As the vehicle plummeted at 75 miles per hour, Tyre slipped through his restraint and fell more than 300 feet to the pavement below. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Investigators discovered that his proximity sensor had been manually loosened and retightened in an expanded position, allowing a gap of 7.19 inches instead of the standard 3.33 inches. This deliberate misadjustment tricked the safety system into showing a green light when the harness was nowhere near secure. The ride's manual listed a maximum weight limit of 287 pounds. Tyre weighed 53 pounds above that limit, and no weight restrictions were posted at the entrance. The operator had been on the job for only 3 days. Tyre's family was awarded $310 million in damages. The Orlando Freefall was dismantled in 2023. England's most intense roller coaster. A stalled test car sitting on the track, and operators who overrode every safety warning the system gave them. Story 3. The Smiler at Alton Towers. June 2nd, 2015, Alton Towers, England. The Smiler held the world record for the most inversions on a single roller coaster. 14 gut-wrenching flips at 52 miles per hour. That afternoon, an empty test car had stalled on the track due to high winds. Operators noticed the fault, but assumed the safety system was malfunctioning rather than doing its job. They manually overrode it and dispatched a fully loaded passenger train carrying 16 people directly into the stalled car. The collision at 50 miles per hour crumpled the front row of the passenger train instantly. 2 young women, 18-year-old Leah Washington and 20-year-old Vicky Balch, suffered such catastrophic leg injuries that amputation was the only option. For over 4 hours, injured passengers remained suspended in twisted wreckage while firefighters cut through steel to free them one by one. Alton Towers was fined £5 million, the largest penalty ever issued to a UK theme park. The Smiler reopened 9 months later, a family water ride that had operated safely for 30 years. A pump failure that drained the water, and a conveyor belt that kept running while 4 people were trapped inside it. Story 4. Thunder River Rapids. October 25th, 2016. Dreamworld Theme Park, Gold Coast, Australia. 2 families boarded a circular raft on Thunder River Rapids, a gentle ride that had operated without major incident for over 3 decades. A water pump failure drained a critical section of the channel. An empty raft ahead became stranded on the exposed metal rails. When the family's raft collided with it, both rafts flipped vertically, and 4 adults were thrown into the conveyor belt machinery. The belt kept running. It had no emergency sensors to detect obstructions and no automatic shutoff. It pulled them under and crushed them against the concrete channel floor. Kate Goodchild, Luke Dorset, Ruzi Aragi, and Cindy Lowe all died. Kate's 2 children, seated in the center of the raft, were thrown clear and survived. The investigation revealed Thunder River Rapids had suffered over 100 mechanical incidents before the fatal accident. Maintenance logs documented repeated pump failures, and management had continued patching problems rather than closing the ride for proper repair. The ride's engineer admitted he did not know how the emergency stop system worked. Dreamworld was fined $3.6 million, the largest workplace safety penalty in Australian history. The world's tallest water slide. A designer with no engineering qualifications, and a 10-year-old boy who never made it to the bottom. Story 5. Verrückt Water Slide. August 7, 2016, Schlitterbahn Water Park, Kansas City. At 168 feet, Verrückt was the tallest water slide ever built. During early testing, rafts repeatedly became airborne when they hit the second hill due to uneven weight distribution. Instead of redesigning the slide, the park installed metal netting around the track to catch airborne rafts. 10-year-old Caleb Schwab, the son of a Kansas state legislator, was given VIP access for the day. On his second ride, he was paired with 2 adult women. The weight imbalance caused the front of the raft to lift and go airborne. Caleb was thrown into the metal support bars holding the netting and died instantly. The investigation found that the slide's designer, Jeff Henry, had no formal engineering training and had dropped out of high school. Internal emails showed Henry joking about the ride's dangers and calling it a death wish. Kansas had virtually no water park regulations at the time. The slide had been rushed to completion to meet a television filming deadline. Caleb's family settled for $20 million. Verrückt was demolished in 2018. His death finally changed Kansas water park laws. A standing roller coaster in Japan, wheel axles that had never once been replaced in 15 years of operation, and a crash that ended an entire theme park. Story 6. Fujin Ryujin 2. May 2007. Expoland, Japan. The Fujin Ryujin 2 had thrilled guests since 1992, a standing roller coaster that raced at 70 miles per hour across a half-mile of track. In 15 years of continuous operation, the wheel axles had never once been replaced and were not even included in the park's regular inspection routine. On an afternoon in May 2007, the wheel axle on the second car suddenly snapped as the train approached a curve. The car tilted violently sideways and the ride dragged the passengers nearly 1,000 feet before slamming into a steel guardrail. A 28-year-old woman was killed instantly. 19 others were seriously injured. The ride was immediately dismantled. Unable to recover public confidence, Expoland shut down permanently in 2015, a medieval siege weapon converted into a paying attraction, and the moment a university student missed the net entirely. Story 7. The Human Trebuchet. 1990s, Somerset, England. A dangerous sports club built a full-scale human trebuchet, launching paying thrill-seekers 100 feet through the air toward a distant net for 40 pounds a ride. One woman, Stella Young, hit the net but bounced out, shattering her neck and pelvis. Rather than shutting it down, the club enlarged the net and told riders to tuck into a ball mid-air. In 2002, 20-year-old university student Kostas Dimopoulos took his turn, was launched exactly like the others, and missed the net completely. The fall was fatal. Only after his death was the trebuchet permanently closed. A water park built on a natural lake, a brain-eating organism living in that water, and a park that kept operating for 21 years after the first death. Story 8. Action Park, New Jersey. 1978 to 1996. Action Park, New Jersey earned the nickname Class Action Park for good reason. Safety regulations barely existed. Rides were designed by daredevils rather than engineers. The Cannonball Loop, an enclosed water slide ending in a vertical loop, knocked riders unconscious and knocked out teeth so regularly that staff installed a trapdoor just to rescue people stuck inside it. No insurance company would accept the park as a client, so owner Eugene Mulvihill created a fake insurance company based in the Cayman Islands and illegally insured the park himself. Over its 18 years of operation, the park recorded 6 fatalities, countless broken bones, and traumatic head injuries. It finally closed in 1996. A roller coaster at Cedar Point that launched debris from its trains at over 120 miles per hour, and a woman standing in line who never saw it coming. Story 9. Top Thrill Dragster. August 15, 2021, Cedar Point, Ohio. The Top Thrill Dragster launched riders from 0 to 120 miles per hour in 3.9 seconds, sending them 420 feet straight into the sky. That afternoon, a metal bracket connecting the back of one of the roller coaster cars to the tracking system dislodged during the ride's final descent and flew through the air like a projectile into the queue below, striking 44-year-old Rachel Hawes in the back of the head. She was taken to hospital in critical condition with a severe brain injury. The investigation found multiple loose bolts throughout the ride and evidence of prior missing bolts that had been replaced in the months leading up to the accident. The Top Thrill Dragster was retired after 19 seasons and redesigned as Top Thrill 2, reopening in 2024. A roller coaster at Darien Lake that promised to make riders feel like Superman. And a war veteran the park allowed to board against their own written safety rules. Story 10. Ride of Steel. Darien Lake Theme Park, New York. Sergeant James Hackemer, a war veteran who had lost both legs in service, boarded the Ride of Steel coaster. The park's own safety rules clearly stated that all riders must have 2 functioning legs. Despite this, park officials allowed him to board. As the train thundered toward a steep hill, Hackemer was ejected from his seat and fell to his death. The park was held liable and his family received a settlement. A spinning coaster in Scotland that derailed at 40 miles per hour fell 30 feet and sent 10 people to hospital, and the welding that caused it all. Story 11. Tsunami Ride at M&D's. June 2016. M&D's Theme Park, Scotland. The tsunami inverted coaster had already stranded passengers 60 feet above the ground for 8 hours in a 2011 breakdown. In June 2016, it derailed at 40 miles per hour, crashed into a support beam, and plunged 30 feet to the ground. 2 adults and 8 children were injured. The investigation found that axles had been improperly welded during recent repairs. The ride inspector who approved those faulty repairs was permanently banned from the industry. The tsunami ride was removed from the park permanently. The new Texas Giant. A woman who told operators her lap bar was not locked before the ride started, and an attendant who gave a quick reassurance and dispatched the train anyway. Story 12. The new Texas Giant. July 2013. Six Flags Over Texas. A larger woman fell 75 feet from the new Texas Giant roller coaster during a steep drop and died. Witnesses confirmed she had voiced concerns about her lap bar not clicking securely before the ride began. The attendant reassured her and sent the train anyway. The investigation found that the lap bar system only secured riders at the waist, failing to hold passengers during sharp turns and intense speeds. The park closed the ride for 2 months and installed new lap bars and seatbelts. A slingshot ride in Florida. 2 men strapped in and ready to launch, and a cable that snapped before they left the ground. Story 13. Vertical Accelerator. Cobra Adventure Park, Florida. 2 men strapped into the vertical accelerator slingshot ride, ready to be blasted 160 feet into the air. As the countdown began, one of the steel cables snapped with a violent crack. The operator's quick reaction stopped the launch before it could fire. Video of the near miss spread rapidly across the internet. The vertical accelerator was shut down immediately. It remains at the park today as a reminder of how close 2 people came to a fatal launch. A wooden roller coaster at Lightwater Valley in England. 2 separate tragedies on the same ride, 17 years apart. Story 14. The Twister at Lightwater Valley. June 2002. Lightwater Valley, North Yorkshire, England. 20-year-old Gemma Savage was riding the treetop twister when a manual override by an engineer caused 2 cars to collide at maximum speed. Gemma suffered fatal head and neck injuries. 3 other teenagers were also injured in the collision. The investigation found faulty wiring had allowed the manual override to function without triggering the emergency stop, meaning both the software and the engineer were simultaneously trying to control the ride. The ride's designers were fined £175,000, and the park was fined £110,000. 17 years later, in 2019, a 7-year-old boy slid out of his restraints on the same ride and fell 15 feet to the ground, sustaining life-threatening head injuries. Investigations found multiple faulty seatbelts across the ride's cars and operators, who did not understand the height and restraint requirements for young children. The park was fined a further £349,000. The twister was dismantled shortly afterward. A duck boat carrying 31 passengers on a scenic lake tour. A severe storm warning issued 8 hours before departure, and a captain who took them out anyway. Story 15. Branson, duck boat. July 19th, 2018, Table Rock Lake, Branson, Missouri. A duck boat carrying 31 passengers capsized in near hurricane conditions, killing 17 people. The National Weather Service had issued a severe thunderstorm warning with winds exceeding 70 miles per hour nearly 8 hours before the boat sank. A second warning was issued 30 minutes before departure. The captain told passengers before setting off that a storm was expected but took them out onto the lake anyway. As 70-mile-per-hour winds created swells between 3 and 5 feet, water began flooding the vessel. The boat sank 250 feet from the dock. Survivors described family members disappearing beneath the surface around them. One woman lost her husband, 3 children, mother, father-in-law, sister-in-law, and uncle in a single evening, the NTSB. Investigation found the probable cause was the company's decision to continue water tours despite clear severe weather warnings. The duck boat designer, like the verrückt slide designer, had no formal engineering training. Criminal charges were filed against the captain and managers, but were dismissed in 2022. Settlements with victims' families were reported to be in the vicinity of $100 million. 15 accidents, 15 failures, 15 moments when the illusion of safety collapsed completely. These were not freak occurrences or acts of fate. They were the result of choices. Maintenance skipped. Safety systems bypassed. Warning signs ignored. Profits placed ahead of lives. Every roller coaster was built by people, maintained by people, and operated by people. And people make mistakes. The difference is that when a roller coaster fails, those mistakes don't cost money. They cost lives. Drop a comment below. Will you ever trust a theme park ride the same way again? Subscribe because the real stories are always more terrifying than the rides themselves.